Howdy, folks. I'm Brian,
I'm Amber.
and here's some Reddit. Our first story is going to be a silly voice story, so hopefully you enjoy. Our first story is titled, Am I a jerk for putting my team first? This last Friday, I, a 23-year-old male, went with my girlfriend, Sam, a 34-year-old female, to celebrate my friend's graduation at his place. When we got there, I was making some small talk, and the night was going well until I joked to Sam about how I was glad that this one guy, Jeff, a 14-year-old male, quit the team that I coach. Currently, I'm the head coach for the junior varsity swim team. Something important to note is that we compete as a team in high school competitions, and that my team wins consistently and frequently, which has given our school a good name athletically. They are all becoming amazing swimmers, except Jeff, who's a loser and can't swim. I added that commentary. Jeff is starting freshman year at my high school and joined the summer practices before the school year started. Our practices start in June and end in August, but we still practice weekly besides the competitions during the school year. Jeff had quit about a week before the first competition. Although Jeff attended almost every one of our practice sessions, he only missed 2. He is not just athletically gifted like his teammates. He only had swam in community pools before, so I had to completely teach him the butterfly, the breaststroke, the backstroke, and freestyle from scratch. After watching the videos I showed him on the forums, he still did not quite understand them, so I had to spend extra time fixing his form, which could have been spent on other teammates. For example, one time we were collectively working on correct breathing, but Jeff needed to fix his stroke as he could not breathe correctly with his current form. Although he was improving and making an effort, his times were consistently below what would be considered acceptable for these competitions. I did not want to exclude him and embarrass him, but I was frankly caught between a rock and a hard place. I talked to him about it, and he decided that after hearing his options to be put in more administrative role, for example, he would attend the competitions and be a supportive of the teammates and record times and help in general, but would no longer be participating. Well, I told Sam all this, and she started to get mad at me and telling me that I was being elitist and a jerk to that kid. I tried to explain how competitive the school is and how Jeff had agreed to these terms, but she said none of that mattered. Some of the others were eavesdropping and started digging into me too until it felt like everyone was against me. They kept bringing up examples of them being bad at sports when they were just starting, but this school is different, and many of their examples were not even close to swimming. After this argument, my mood was ruined, and when we got back home, Sam continued to joke about it, but it didn't feel like she was joking to me, and I took it personally. I asked her to stop, and she called me a baby for taking it too seriously. But I was being the elitist, and I should apologize to Jeff. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think? I am teasing OP here a little bit here, but he definitely sounds like the kind of person who takes these things a little too seriously. It's junior varsity, for crying out loud. It's JV. Most people who are in JV aren't like the best of the best in their sport, and not to say like you don't want to win competition still, but JV should be a team where everyone can compete. And that's just what it boils down to. So what? He's not going to place in your competitions. And I don't necessarily know how swimming meets work. I know in track, for instance, because I actually did track when I was in high school, everyone got to run and it didn't matter. Like, you could compete, and if you did well, you did well. If you didn't, you didn't. And I mean, I guess like it really depends on the school and how seriously the school treats these things, but I think that this OP here is being too harsh on Jeff and not giving him a chance to improve. And yeah, I mean, Jeff is going to need more help because I guess this is his first school year here and he didn't come from the best of circumstances and he never tried before. But like everyone was saying, it's going to take some time and energy for him to get better. Maybe he needs to do more swim practices. Maybe he needs more help. So, yeah, I mean, certainly I can understand OP's desire to win, but again, JV's not necessarily like the pinnacle of like athletic prowess in high school here. I mean, there's a varsity team for a reason. And that's not to be like say that these students who are in this team don't deserve to like win or anything to that effect. I think that they're probably all putting in like a lot of hard work into this, and they're really performing at a high level, it sounds like. But these students who are in the JV, this is more the way I've always perceived JV is more of like having a good time and being less competitive. There's not quite the same stakes at play here. Not that there's really any stakes at play anyways in high school sports. I mean, let's be realistic here. So, I don't know. Hopefully I haven't dug myself into too many holes or put my foot into my mouth here. I hope not. Long story short, yeah, I think you're being a jerk to Jeff. I think you're taking, high school sports a little too seriously, especially JV. And yeah, I mean, that's really what it boils down to in my book. I think that you could have been nicer to him. So anyhow, take care and good luck. You're the jerk. So the kid just joined the school and could only swim at community pools before, probably meaning he didn't have the money to spend on fancy pools and trainers. And he gets told, "You're not good enough. You're wasting our time. Sit here and cheer for the good kids." You even say he was improving. He was clearly putting in the work and practicing to get better and to meet your standards, but he just wasn't going at the rate you wanted. Of course he agreed. The kid was probably embarrassed and upset at being told he wasn't good enough and wasn't improving fast enough. Probably felt like he had no other choice. Poor kid, new school, gets kicked out of swimming because he's not gifted like everyone else. How elitist. You're the jerk. Dude, you're the coach and you're supposed to be helping him grow and be a better team member. You cannot have all Supermans in the team and your actions aren't justified. You've demotivated him and took an opportunity from a kid. By the way, there are better coaches out there. Alright, our next letter is titled, "Am I the jerk? Neighbors say that I'm making them uncomfortable being around their kids." This is my first time posting, so sorry if I mess anything up. I'm a 40-year-old male and I live somewhat in a rural place. Decent land between houses and a lot of forest. In between me and my neighbor's land, there's a decent-sized pond. Technically, it's all on my land, but one side of it is surrounded by the neighbor's land. There is a dock on it. I upgraded it about 15 years ago, and it's somewhat nice. It's right next to my property boundary, if that's important. I go down there somewhat often. Usually, I'm down there for a few hours in the evening with my dog, my work computer, and sometimes a tasty adult beverage. My neighbors are in their late 20s and early 30s. They moved in a few years ago. They have a pair of young kids, both under 10, I'd guess maybe 5 and 6 or 8 and 9. Their backyard is not far from where I am in the evening, and neither yard is fenced in. Every few days, the kids come outside when I am down by the pool. I ignore them, but about a week ago, my neighbors approached me and asked me if I would go inside or somewhere else when the kids were outside. They said I made them feel uncomfortable letting their kids go into the backyard, and that the kids are also scared of my dog. I do not pay any attention to their kids. I'm usually facing away from them, and never directly facing them. I do get why they did not want their kids outside alone with me nearby, as much as it's bad because this seems to have been misunderstood. I'm not saying that I'm registered and I do not have a criminal history. However, I get that they may feel uneasy about having their kids being around a man that they do not know very well. My dog is always tied up when he's on the dock with me. He never barks when we're down there, and he usually just naps. He's a fairly large dog, 75 to 80 pounds, but there is almost no chance that he could or would hurt them. They also express concerns about me drinking. I do not get anywhere near the point of being intoxicated. It's at most one drink when I do have one, and it's maybe a couple times a month. I told them that I appreciate them reaching out to me, but I am not going to stop. This week I kept doing it and got a somewhat angry letter. I'm honestly starting to doubt if I should just head inside when they come out. Am I the jerk for not listening to them, and will I be the jerk to keep doing what I'm doing? Edit. The pond is basically inaccessible from everywhere except the dock due to the plants, so there's almost chance that the kids could fall in. Alright, OP. I'm going to agree with Reddit on this one. I think that you're not the jerk in this situation, and maybe make this be a little much, but maybe you should invest in a fence. I don't know. Or tell them to invest in their own fence if they're really that uncomfortable. There is a solution here, and that would probably be the easiest solution. So they want you to not utilize your property because you're too close to their property line. I mean, for crying out loud. Really? Really? Yeah, you're not the jerk in this situation. These people are being entitled, and I think they're being completely unfair. And, if they feel uncomfortable with you, that's one thing. I mean, like you said, that's understandable. Strange men, are stranger danger type thing, But maybe they should be outside with their kids then if they're that worried about this. And you're not doing anything wrong. You're not hurting anyone. You're not egging on the kids. You haven't ever called them over to your yard and been like, hey kids, you want to join me for a drink? Like, yeah, if you had done that, I would definitely be like, yeah, that's actually kind of a jerk thing to do, and maybe you should not be outside with the kids around, but you're minding your own business. So I don't know what's wrong with these people, and yeah. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Not the jerk. If they send another nasty letter, get a solicitor to send a cease and desist letter. They are harassing you and trying to dictate what you do on your own land. Unreal. And it's so silly. I guess I might be different because I'm obviously neurodivergent, albeit gender non-conforming woman, still with her parents and 2 goofy dumb dogs. But I sit out on my back porch to work every day. Both sets of neighbor have young kids, one of whom is in their no clothes phase. And the only chat we've had about the kids is that they are loud. I don't understand how they are mad at you for quietly using your own property. It's bonkers. As a mom of youngish kids, it's important to teach the kids to be good neighbors too, by letting them play quietly and doing their own thing without interrupting your joy of using your own property. Not the jerk, but if you can get one, a fence would be so useful in your situation. Not the jerk. Provide them with the names of good fence contractors. The entitled nerve of some people. This is your land. You have the right to the peaceful enjoyment of it. If they don't like it, too bad. They can sell their home, stay inside, build a tall privacy fence. What they can't do is tell you what to do. Alright, our next letter is titled, Am I the jerk for potentially traumatizing my neighbor's children after they kept coming onto my property and trying to get into my house? Me and my now fiance lived in this house and the neighborhood for a few months now. I have a 1-year-old son to myself, so I know how kids can be. However, my neighbors have 3 children, a 9, 12, and 14-year-old. All of them are boys. At first, they weren't too much trouble. I would see them running around, throwing sticks, and riding scooters across the street. But as of recently, they had started getting a lot closer to my property. This all started when the oldest was throwing various trash into our yard, and my fiance would constantly have to go and pick it up. Then all 3 children started digging holes in our yard, banging on our door, and I even caught them trying to lockpick my front door with a bobby pin. This has happened 4 or 5 times already. Of course, I brought this up with her mother, and she has done little about it. They seem to have very little supervision, and apparently CPS has already been called numerous times because of how they seem to be left alone. I warned the mother that we have 2 big dogs, whose sole purpose is to protect us against intruders, so if their sons happen to be actually getting into my home, they would probably end up being hurt. I did not want these little children to end up hurt, of course, which is why I was warning her. She brushed it off, saying if anything happened to her boys, she would have me promptly arrested and my dogs put down. So I decided to take matters into my own hands to ensure the safety of the boys. As expected, the oldest one and his brothers were sneaking around my yard again. I waited until they got closer to my front yard. When the second youngest opened the door, I said a command to my dogs and they immediately ran out, barking and growling. All of the boys screamed and started yelling, and they ran and ran all the way until they got to their house, getting wet by the lawn sprinklers on the way. I called my dogs back. They stopped at the end of the lawn like I had trained them to do, and we didn't hear much for a few days. Their mother and the police came knocking on my door. She said some stuff about how my dogs bit her children and I was a danger to the neighbors. But I showed the security footage from my camera to the police and it pretty much died down there. She's still trying to keep the case open, but I feel as I've done little to no wrong. Her boys don't bother us anymore, and her children aren't hurt, and were never going to be. Am I the jerk? Edit, I did tell the police that they were attempting to break into my house. It was obvious from the video too. I just decided not to press charges, considering the only reason that they're acting like this is because they have a neglectful mother. From your comments, I've decided to do all I can to get these boys out of there. LOL, for those of you saying that my dogs are aggressive, Mabel can't sleep unless she chews on her Snuffy repeatedly, and Robbie is scared of spoons. Well, what do you think, folks? Do you think that this was an over-aggressive attempt on their part? You know, the thing is that these boys were trying to actually get into her home. It doesn't sound like they knocked. It sounded like they were just trying to let themselves in. So I really can't blame OP for sicking her dogs on them. And maybe this wasn't necessarily the best way of approaching the situation, but I honestly can't think of another way off the top of my head. Like, you approached their mother, you tried to warn her, you tried to tell her that you have dogs, and, you know, these kids were continuing to be a pain. So I think you did your due diligence here, and I think that the mom is largely to blame for how these kids are acting. So, yeah, I don't think that you're the jerk in this situation. Anyhow, take care and good luck. Oh my goodness, you let your trained dogs out into your own yard? What a criminal. And you let them bark at children? You're just a monster, aren't you? And security footage? So you admit to recording young boys without their knowledge. Predator. Sarcasm. Not the jerk. I know you will, but definitely keep a close eye on her and your dogs. She might want to take matters into her own hands and hurt your dogs. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. They were trespassing and harassing you. Their mother is useless. Now you should take footage back to the police and say you would like to press charges for breaking and entering, trespassing, etc. No way should the kids get away with this scot-free. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving me a like. If you didn't, consider giving me a dislike. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.